Mrs. Ambika, an advocate. I have also with me Rakesh Prabhu from ALMT Legal.
It's a law firm. Yeah, it's a law firm.
And mostly they deal with the corporate law.
Yes.
So I thought he would be the right person to speak about the bill, the sexual harassment bill, from the corporate point of view. 1997, the Supreme Court in the Vishaka versus State of Rajasthan case, they came up with certain guidelines. And for those who don't know about it, how it happened was, there was a social worker, Ms. Bhanwari Devi, who was trying to prevent a child marriage in Rajasthan. Some of the people who were involved in this child marriage were angry that she was intervening and she was gang raped. She went to court and the judge said that this was an act of vengeance, almost saying, oh, it was okay what they did because they only did because she tried to stop the child marriage. This angered a lot of other women's organizations which all came together, and finally when it went to Supreme Court, the Supreme Court sat up and said, okay, this is sexual harassment at workplace. Therefore, the group of people who went to court, they call themselves the Vishaka group. Therefore, it's called the Vishaka versus. It wasn't really a person called Vishaka. And that is the beginning of the sexual harassment policy, or rather the anti-sexual harassment policy. So let's go with it little by little. I'm going to ask Ambika to just explain in detail what is the Supreme Court guideline on this? How is it different from the bill that has been passed? Ambika practices in the family courts in Bangalore, and she handles divorce cases, maintenance cases, custody cases, and also in the High Court. Okay, yeah. Ambika, let's talk about the Supreme Court guidelines.
Yeah, in Supreme Court, actually guidelines were passed only about the harassment which has already happened, and there was no such guidelines. If at all, if there is any complaint in the initial stage, okay, how to stop those harassments which has been already, it is started, just it has been initiated.
Okay.
And for the prevention of the sexual harassments, certain guidelines were not passed as the Vishaka judgments or the other precedent laws were only, which was only in the workplace harassment incident has already happened.
So it was more like a cure but not a prevention.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was only a retrospective for the stopping of sexual harassments at the workplace.
Okay.
But after the Supreme Court guidelines, the bill which has been passed, what are the precedents, what are the conditions which are the workplace harassment actually? Okay. What is the meaning of workplace harassment?
Okay.
Basically, harassment is of 3 degrees. Okay. Like it may be civil, or it may be criminal, like crimes, or it may be only a defamation.
Okay, now here I want to make it clear to many people who mistake. There was this lady who came and said, see, I was transferred because I'm a woman. Is that sexual harassment? Is that sexual?
No, it is not a sexual harassment.
Okay, so what is sexual harassment?
An harassment which is an embarrassing situations where a woman has to undergo, if at all, if the counter colleagues or the seniors who says about the dignity of a woman.
Okay, it violates the dignity of a woman. Okay.
And if at all, if it embarrasses her, the degree will varies if someone says in the lower category than the officer categories. But still it is an embarrassment for each individual mind.
Okay.
That is cruelty. That is an harassment.
All right. But what is sexual harassment? I mean, she might feel embarrassed if you just say, hi, you're looking nice. Is that sexual harassment?
It's only a comment on once.
Yes.
It's not an harassment.
Okay. But if he says, wow, you're looking sexy, is that sexual harassment?
Yes, it's surely sexual harassment. Not only that, if at all, if he says about each part of her, comments on her
your lips look like this, or your nose is so beautiful. But if he just says you're looking beautiful, it's not sexual.
It's not harassment.
But if he pinpoints certain parts of her body and says that is good,
and if he shows something which is an indecent one,
he tells her, come to my computer, and he shows her a pornographic film, or that is also sexual harassment.
If he indicates certain parts, that's also an harassment, sexual harassment.
Now if he says, come and have a cup of coffee with me, is that sexual harassment?
No, that's not a sexual harassment. It's only a common acceptance and offer of a person.
Okay, suppose he says, come and have coffee with me and let me hold your hand under the table. Is that sexual harassment?
Of course, it is a violating a person's dignity.
Okay, so anything which has sexual connotation and violates the dignity of the woman. Can I also
it's
say
not a
man
woman.
also?
Yeah, it is either person. It's not
It's
a woman.
person, not a. Most people think that this bill is loaded in favor of women. It's not so, isn't it?
It's not so. It's not so. There is no difference for the law.
Okay, so it could happen to a man. A lady boss could do that to a
Yes.
junior, a male junior.
Male junior.
So he has as much
It's not only a boss. It's like colleagues also.
colleagues also. Okay, so we are very clear here. Sexual harassment has nothing to do with being transferred or, sitting next to so and so. I don't like it, therefore it's sexual harassment. No. But it has to be accompanied by an act or a word, verbal or
Physical appearance.
which embarrasses a woman
Or a man.
or a man by being personal,
Maybe personal.
with sexual connotation.
Yes.
I'm just reiterating this because a lot of people with misconception about what is sexual harassment. Now we come back to the bill again.
Yeah.
What is the bill? How much further has it gone beyond the guidelines given by?
Yeah. Earlier in the guidelines, there was only a committee to be formed and the inquiry has to be conducted inside the organization.
Okay.
And only one person has to be come in through the committee. Third person who is not a employee or an employer or for the part of the organization.
Okay. So what was earlier the guidelines says is have a complaints committee and it is mandatory.
Mandatory.
But many companies don't have it.
Not only companies, even the government organization,
Schools,
departments,
colleges.
departments doesn't have the complaint committee at all.
So
Or
they're
if-
also violating the.
If they
Supreme
say
Court.
that there is a committee, they say there's no complaint at all.
So they think if there is a complaint, they should form a committee.
Yes.
It should be other way around.
Yeah.
Every company must form a committee and it must have a person from
Third
an outside,
outsider.
maybe an NGO. I think they
say-
specify it should be an NGO connected with this kind of cases.
Yes.
Should be there so that there is objective analysis of this. Okay.
Unbiased decisions will come out if a person is sitting as a president of that committee.
Okay. So the person who chairs this committee must be an outsider,
Yeah.
preferably a woman.
Yeah.
And should this committee also have men in it or only women?
No, it's not like only woman. It's only a man. It's between both
Okay. They're all employees of the
employees
company.
of the company. 2/3 of the committee should be women.
Okay. All right. So there is fair inquiry about all this. Next thing is, in the guidelines, it just says form a committee, have this kind of people, and then the complaint goes to this, and it's all done in-house.
Actually, it has also said about the once a while the committee has to meet
Okay.
and discuss whether there is a complaint or not.
All right.
If there is a complaint, only they have to meet. That is not the mandatory principles. That is where all organizations are
Making a mistake. So that means please put the committee in place
and make it active.
and make it active.
Make the committee to work for the awareness of what is harassment.
All right. So communicate to the employees. We have a committee like this. So if you have an issue, come to us. So create an awareness about it.
Creative.
Okay, that's good. After that,
One more guidelines by the Supreme Court says that if at all there is any complaint, it has to be sorted out inside the organization.
yes, okay.
And then the maximum punishment was only the transfer.
Okay, so he could have done a lot of harm to a lady's emotional being.
It's not
or
he
whatever.
or she.
He or she. Okay.
I wanted to tell about one thing that if at all if he is transferred, he may repeat that.
In the other place.
That's what had happened. That's why bill was mandatory to be passed.
Okay. So that is a big lacuna in the Supreme Court
Yes.
guideline where it said the maximum punishment is a transfer
Transfer.
of the person who's accused of it.
Yeah.
But he or she could
And
get away with it.
What the relief for the victim was not there for that.
Okay, so there was a punishment for the predator,
Yeah.
but no relief for the victim.
Yeah.
That's not too good. So the bill goes one step ahead.
Yes. Bill says that it is mandatory for every organization to have a committee and to meet once in 3 months.
Okay.
And the complaint which has come from a person should be investigated among themselves. Firstly, if it is not in the hands of the committee members to investigate, they can take a help of the jurisdictional police officer
Okay.
to investigate on it.
So now the bill says you can step out of the company.
Yes.
The guideline only made you do it in-house. Now the bill opens up the possibilities.
Yes.
That you can get a police from outside.
Yes.
All right.
For the investigating, whether the complaint was a genuine one or it's only for the namesake it was a complaint, or if there is any abuse of a person's powers.
Okay, misuse, abuse of power. That could also happen.
Yes.
All right. Now, again, when we come back to the guidelines has said that you must have a committee. And the bill also says it is mandatory. What happens to those companies which don't have these? Are they penalized for not having it or no?
It has not been penalized in the Supreme Court guidelines.
Yes.
But now, after the bill, each company, it is mandatory to have a sexual harassment committee.
Okay.
And they have to notify on and display that there is a committee and who are the members of the committee. They just wanted to see that it is implemented.
And if they don't do it?
If they don't do it, they will be fined for such non-doing of act.
All right. Who's
it is
monitoring?
To 10,000 to depends upon the company's capacity.
Financial. Who's monitoring it? I mean, who's going to keep a watch on? Have you started types?
This is the women's commissions which have been looking out for the sexual harassment committees which have been formed or not formed, or which is creating the awareness that committee has to be formed.
Okay. So are they doing it? Are they doing their work? The Women's Commission?
They are just started.
So it is a warning to all the companies, get your act ready.
Yes, actually all the complaints which has to be placed, once it has been placed, it goes for the cyber crimes or anything, it goes to the Superintendent of Police.
Okay.
It doesn't go to the local police station. It has to go to the Superintendent of Police.
Okay.
Workplace harassments also now has been, after the bill, it has come to directly to the magistrate. Police force has been...
So the police has been sidelined from this?
It.
Very
Only
good.
for the investigation purpose, they will be there.
Anything else which is special about this bill?
Yeah. Earlier, it was only for the namesake the committee was formed.
Okay.
Now, at least it is started. We are creating awareness, awakening ourselves to that. If there is any complaint, let us start first to complain on that.
Yes.
And victims are allowed to be more having rights to take up their...
And what else has it done?
Further on, if there is a pornographic or anything, electronic media, they goes to the Superintendent of Police with sophisticated techniques how to find out the crimes and who has done that. Such
it will go
things.
to cybercrime also.
Yes.
So if they send messages, they can also be traced by the cybercrime police.
And minimum imprisonment is 7 years.
Oh, wow. Is it a warning to all the guys and the women not to send incriminating SMSs and MMSs?
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yes.
Even email?
Yes. Recently you might have heard in the TV that making the ringing tones in an indecent way is also
that's also a sexual harassment.
Yeah.
What about using swear words and things like that at workplace? Is that also part of sexual harassment?
Yes. It is in harassments.
Because I remember reading in the bill something about words that are used.
Words, verbal or electronic words which has to be communicated. While communicating also, it is an harassment if at all. If it overdo about the degrees of
if
words.
It hurts the sentiments of anybody.
And
feelings of the person.
Yes.
Okay, so anything else about it which you think as a lawyer you want to warn people, or I wouldn't say warn really, but make them aware of it.
I feel that it's more convenient to tell that it is an awareness to see that wherever you are, whoever you are, you should have your own dignity, self-respect for yourself, and never allow the other person to cross the borders. Violates it.
Okay. That is for the victim.
Victim.
So the victim can prevent it by having a little more assertive skills.
Yes.
Prevent it.
At the instance, first time, if at all, if any person does it, immediately if she takes up an actions, definitely the other person will not cross that stage of committing the crime itself.
So it's important for men and women to be aware that they are being victimized.
They are under surveillance, to tell you.
And to prevent it right away?
Yes.
So that it doesn't go into murky waters later on.
And it's also about the bill. It is also giving power for the management to look and help the employees who are sitting and vulnerable for the such abuses.
Recently, I got a mail from somebody whom I know about somebody whom She knows. He is working for a big company, and I believe one of the women there complained against him. He doesn't even know anything about it. And without any proper hearing or anything, he was just sent out of the company. Does he have a legal right?
Yes, he
Under
has.
this circumstance?
He can go to the court, a sessions court, where he can address his complaint and says that whatever it has been done, proper investigation which has not been done, he can reopen that,
Okay.
even challenging at high court level. That is what the bill says.
Okay, so the bill is giving a little more power to innocent victims also.
Innocent. Justice for one who has been denied.
Denied that.
And moreover, there is also such management which has the committee and viewing about the complaints or anything. A big organization, maybe the private or the public undertakings. But if it is big organization, the management cannot go for each section to go and okay. For that, they have also made that each category wise, classes wise, the appointments will be one of the committee member of the sexual harassment committee.
Okay, so that means your sexual harassment committee is comprised of employees from all strata of the
Categories.
organization.
Yes.
So that there is no favoritism or anything.
Yes.
Oh, that's very good. Is that an improvement on the Supreme Court guideline?
Yes, it is surely improvement, because earlier it's only for the management to look after.
Correct.
It was not under the grass level employees.
Grassroots level. Okay. So they also have to be part of it.
Yes.
It's amazing. But I don't know if even the management knows about all this.
It is.
Which is one of the reasons why we are doing
And
this.
investigation can take place from 3 months to 8 months.
Okay. Oh, that's another thing. Time.
Because earlier it was only for 1 or 2 committee meetings. Within that, they have to finish it off the investigation and they have to report back to the president of the committee.
Okay.
But now it is not like that. Each corner they can go and look into whatever the length of time they can take.
Okay.
And each investigation will be accompanied by the committee member.
Okay.
With the police or without the police.
All right. So
2 or 3 members sit together for investigating, calling upon the other person, recording the statements individually, and later on counseling them. That is one more part of the bill.
oh, that's good. So they say some counseling has to be done both to the victim and to the perpetrator.
Yes.
I wish this counseling can be done even before something like this happens.
That's what for awareness programs they have implemented that.
So as a lawyer, what do you think? Is this a eyewash or is it really going to happen?
If it is implemented full-fledged and there's no bifurcation for the government organization or for the non-government organization, then it is a good.
It's a good move if it's implemented across, whether it's public, private, government,
every level of management, quasi-government, anywhere.
Would you like to communicate to corporate employees how to avoid something like this, like men and women? What is it that they should do so they don't become victims?
It's only saying that don't allow anyone
to violate.
your own.
What about those people who do violate? What are you going to tell them?
You be aware for it. You will have to face the punishments.
Okay. So this is a warning to those who have wrong ideas.
Yeah.
Man or woman.
Man or woman.
And say, it's serious now.
Yes.
It is serious and they mean business. And also, do you think women's commission all over, don't you think they should make it a point to go and approach companies and check out whether they have complaints committees or not?
Yes, burden lies on the women's commissions.
Okay.
But even addition to it, there are protection officers, CTPOs from the government who are also taking up this part of awareness campaigning from the government to the non-governmental organization and for the government organization also.
Okay. So that's the next part of the bill that they are doing.
Yes.
They are creating awareness.
They are creating
with
awareness.
managements.
With managements.
How to create an awareness with their employees.
Yes.
So I'm glad we are doing this, isn't it, Ambika? We are going to be reaching a lot more people.
Definitely.
Both employers and employees, because it costs the company a lot of money to handle sexual harassment cases. It costs it a lot of time, bad publicity for the company, and I think there's a lot of low morale. That's what the Supreme Court guideline says. These are the bad results of it, that the employee morale comes down because of this.
If at all, if it is implemented in all parts of the country also, because only one site which is having electronic medias or anything, only there we get this type of awareness, but nowhere else. There are a number of cases which has been brought forward by the unorganized sector only.
Okay.
And it is to say that awareness has been created in the grassroots level and not in the management level.
Oh, that's unfortunate. So you mean those people at that unorganized sector know more about their rights, about not their dignity not being violated, and the organized sector doesn't know about it.
Organized sector, they take it as granted.
Okay. So now they should become more aware.
Yes. Part of bill is only the papers.
Okay.
The implementation part is from the each individual.
Okay. So those who become victims have to have the courage to go and complain.
I will say that let them not be victims at all.
That's a different thing. Yes. Okay.
First create themselves that you also have the right to live with freedom and dignity. Then only nobody violates such. If any such violation takes place, immediately they can take up the action to see that, address such violations.
There are so many things about those issues, Ambika. How does one believe in the system?
I have told about the protection officer in my last. Those protection officers have the right to investigate the matter.
Okay.
Visiting the place and writing about the violence which has happened. And recently, about the Domestic Violence Act also, which has been also a part of the workplace harassment. It is correlated with that. So protection officer has been given the power.
Protection officer is what he is a
government officer.
Government officer.
Welfare officer.
That is also something like a question mark. He's a government officer.
No, he has the power to write about the FIR.
Okay, if they don't get it.
Yes.
How does one know where to find this protection officer?
Women and Child Department each has a franchise of departments in each sections of the locality or the village or the district headquarters. And the welfare officers will be deputed there.
And in cities like Bangalore, Delhi?
Yes, we have it. Protection officers are
So if you go to Google and say protection officer, will you find them?
Yeah, you can also have it through Women and Child Department, protection officer, particular jurisdiction, you will get that.
Okay, if you go to the
Women and Child Department or
to that department, okay, and they'll tell you who's the protection officer.
Yes. Even women's commissions have the certain officers deployed for creating awareness and taking the complaints.
It's amazing, this bill, I think the country really needed it. What is the main thrust for corporations in this? Earlier, it was in favor of the victim. The Supreme Court guidelines was in favor of the victims. But the bill goes beyond that and gives responsibility for companies to set up the compliance committees. I don't think many companies are aware of it, number one. Even if they are aware of it, they don't take it seriously. So what are the repercussions of this, Rakesh?
First of all, as you rightly mentioned, the companies may not be aware of such compliance which is being made mandatory as such.
Okay.
And in case if a company is not setting up such committee to address such issues, the company may be penalized as per the statute.
And what does the statute say? In what kind of penalizing?
It's a penalty up to 50,000 rupees on the employer.
All right. Is it also affecting the business license or something?
It has actually. There's no specific mention on the business license or anything to do with the certifications by itself.
Okay.
But however, that itself, the penalization will itself act as a deterrent factor for companies who would not want to take it easy, especially with the brand name. What the company would definitely want to have it in the society.
Okay. So how does one implement this? Make companies number one aware of it, and secondly make them have the committee, because they all seem to think, we don't have complaints, we have a very good working environment, nobody does all these things. I think they're in denial.
I think they are in denial. First of all, there should be some awareness in terms of to be like, in all fairness, even the company, even the employers also, as a result of this particular enactment, they have to bring in certain complaints, like setting up of committees, displaying the provisions as to how the working environment should be there. Basically, you need to put out your pointers as to what to be done, what not to be done, etc. as per the statute. You really can't hold the company responsible, because their focus would be primarily to build business. And obviously their focus and their attention would definitely not be on this until they have a separate legal department, which I don't think many companies would have.
They normally outsource.
Absolutely. They have, I mean, they work with law firms, and not all companies have this their own legal department for compliance or to advise on these issues. They wake up only when something happens. So it is necessary, I believe, that an awareness program or some sort of a awareness to be spread. I mean, for government, it's the responsibility not only to bring it into effect, but also communicate as to what's been brought into effect.
Okay, so it is primarily the duty of the government, once it's passed the bill, to even communicate.
Absolutely. In fact, you don't want all said and at the end of the day, companies and employer, they are here to do business. They are here to bring revenues. They are here to promote employment as such. They do not want to be caught napping on this, and they definitely want to be well informed.
Now, which department of the government is accountable to spreading this awareness to companies?
It should be Women and Children Welfare Department, basically. I think that should be the department which should take the responsibility.
Why should it be women and child? Because there are a lot of men also who are being sexually harassed today.
I agree with you on that. The first question which came to my mind was when I saw the bill was that the bill specifically mentioned about women protection and harassment for men. I really agree with you on that.
Because there are a lot of women who are misusing this also.
Sure.
To drive their own ambition forward. They are penalizing guys who don't even know what's hit them.
True. I agree with you. I completely agree with you. The bill should have been more neutral.
Yes.
Would have been more non-gender specific.
Absolutely.
And I think that would have, to be very honest, I've spoken with quite a number of my clients on this particular bill, and all of them have asked this question, why only women? Okay. So it should have been neutral. That's what I believe.
So when you say women and child department, shouldn't it have been the labor department or whose responsibility it is to say? Yeah,
also the labor department, undoubtedly. Since the focus of this particular bill was women sexual harassment, protection of women, I think that particular department, Women and Child Welfare, should be responsible. But having said so, that does not mean other departments should not actually take any keen interest on this. It should be a hand-in-hand activity because obviously it's a promotional activity in terms of it's a message what has to be spread across.
And once they are aware of it, it is mandatory for them to set up the committee.
Yeah.
If they don't do it, can one of the employees, male or female, complain? And if they have to complain, whom do they complain to, saying my company doesn't have this? Whom do they have to complain to?
It should be the district officer, who would be at the designation of deputy commissioner or district magistrate. He's the person in charge for each district as such. Okay. So he's the appropriate authority to be approached for this.
My company doesn't have this.
Yes, that could be. Yeah. So also at times what happens is that there are companies with a very less number of employees. It could be a startup companies. It could be like only 4 or 5. So there is really no obligation on them where the employee number is less than 10 to have this
But about 10 they must have it?
They must have it. And
even if they have less women and more men, and even if they have 2 women, they must have it?
The Act does not really specify in terms of the gender as to the strength of the employee as such. But it says 10 members, anything like above 10 employees.
Suppose there's a company where there are only men, no women at all. Do they also have to set it up?
Should be, because
men and men can also sexually harass each other.
Obviously then this particular act will not be coming into effect. It would be more in terms of IPC or any other act which would be coming into effect as such. For this enactment to get initiated, it should be primarily a complaint to be lodged by an aggrieved woman.
Aggrieved woman or a man?
On behalf of women, yes.
No, why on behalf of themselves? Why they can't do it? No, this is really bothering me because a lot of people have questioned me on this, when I talk about this, because this is my favorite subject. I feel people go to work from 9 to 5, 9 to 7, 9 to 10, 12 to earn an honest living.
True.
And they have every right to hope for a congenial environment to work in.
Absolutely. I believe it's a fundamental right of this.
It's a fundamental right. Yes. And if one person with depraved attitude creates this disharmony, it can snowball into a very bad environment around you.
True. True, I agree. Yeah, the harassment, I mean, there are two levels which has been addressed. One is an harassment from an employee, co-worker, and one would be from an employer directly.
Directly.
Okay. And if it's between two co-workers, then obviously the redressal would be an internal committee which would be set up within the company as such.
Okay.
If it's directly by the employer, then it's the local committee which has been set up by the district office as such.
Okay.
It's
so
against
if it's
the
a
employer.
boss who is the person
you
who
need to
is-
take it to the district level. as
District
such.
level.
So that's the redressal.
I think this would be of interest to women to know this
Yep.
because sometimes they hesitate to complain because normally it's top down. People who are in power do this.
Yeah.
Or peer level, somehow you can
True, I agree.
handle that.
Yep.
But when top down it comes, you need to know where is the solution.
It's basically the district officer and the local committee is the authority which will receive the complaint as such.
Now, Rakesh, I want you to please specify that most people don't know. We did discuss with Ambika about what is called sexual harassment according to the Supreme Court guidelines. So we know what it is, okay? But some women think just because you told them, oh, come on, you women always cry. Is that sexual harassment?
It really depends in what context, the background as such.
Okay.
To be very honest, I mean, if you want to see the background, I think that plays a very important role in what background and what context the statement has been
The
made.
Vishaka case background.
Should be actually, yeah.
Okay.
No. I'm saying the circumstantial background which a statement has been made as such.
Okay.
Yeah. So what happens is if a statement is made with respect to a background which does not have any invitation or any sort of a message being sent, which would initiate any interest on the sexual harassment or whatever, then I mean it's mainly the background which would probably, even though the sexual harassment itself has been defined in the act, in the bill, but still it's a very wide interpretation has been invited for that particular interpretation as such.
Okay.
So I think it's really the background in which it could be also, say for example, if I have to sort of also play a tune which could be a play tune or a ringer tune as such, which could be something which denotes a message or some sort of a you communicate something which will trigger or which will sort of give a message of
Which has a
sexual.
sexual
Absolutely.
That
So that also could be one of the thing as such.
Like one person asked me the other day, he said, if I say Ati kya kandala,
Could be quite possible.
is it
Absolutely.
sexual harassment?
Quite possible.
I would think it's not really. I personally would think that if somebody said Ati kya kandala, he said, nahi, mujhe nahi aana hai. Finished.
Yeah.
Kaam khatam.
No, I
But
agree
if he
with
persists, if he says, Aja, ऐश करेंगे, ये करेंगे, वो करेंगे.
If he
then it's
continues with the song,
harassment. Yeah, then it is harassment.
True, I agree. No, but the true essence, like as I mentioned, is the context. Like suppose if there are two friends who actually are co-workers, and even even a statement which really have some content of this song may not be interpreted in a way which will attract a sexual harassment interpretation.
So it also
itself.
depends on what is your connection with that person, what's your...
The background as such, and also the circumstances under which a statement or comment has been made. Is it been on a periodical basis? It's been,
that is harassment.
yeah, it's been happening on a regular basis as such, or it's one of the comment which, say for example, probably there was some song which was been running in some radio and you sort of was like you had it in your mind and you just mentioned it. Is that what really as such? So that's the background, what exactly you need to look into. It's case to case basis according to me.
Okay, it's case to case.
Yes.
All right. But these guidelines and the bill is to give you that provision
Yeah.
under these circumstances which go against your sensitivity, your personal dignity.
True.
You have this to protect you.
Yes, and more importantly, one thing what I should draw attention is this bill does not only speak about women working in an organization as such,
yes.
also domestic servants
Correct.
who actually go out and work in private places for their livelihood or wherever as such. This would be definitely helpful for them. Because the interpretation is very wide,
Okay.
and sexual harassment can happen anywhere as such. So that being the case,
They have to go to the district.
Yes, they have to go to the district. Yes, because it's not exactly the organization as such. So you need to go to the district as such. And at the same time, my belief is that at that particular level, where a domestic servant level, where women goes and works for the livelihood, I think awareness may not be there.
Okay.
Actually speaking.
So how does one communicate to them how to go about it? But I want to again warn people on this, Rakesh, is some 25 years ago, I remember, okay, we were in Mumbai And there was a neighbor of ours whose wife used to go to study, do her B.Ed. The next day we saw in the newspaper a naval officer, because my husband was in the Navy, it was his colleague, where they say Lieutenant so-and-so has molested his maid. Now this was some 25 years ago. Okay, we couldn't believe it, number one, because they're a very happily married couple and all that. But anyway, that's, you can never negate a possibility.
I'm sure.
But what I'm saying is this could also happen.
Yeah.
Because today a lot of women go to work.
Sure.
Their husbands probably work out of home. And if there's a maid, and she can also get him into trouble by just saying, okay.
Sure. Yeah.
So how does one protect oneself from these things?
In this particular situation, there is a provision for conciliation. Even before the committee, when I say the committee, it's obviously either the local committee or the district committee. So the committee, before making a recommendation or conducting an inquiry as such, it can actually sort of have a conciliation between the women and the person actually to try and resolve on the matter as such. If there is any sort of a settlement, then there will be no further inquiry or action on this. Okay. So if there is a genuine case where the woman has filed a false complaint for whatever, there's also provision of the act where
for penalizing
and taking action against that particular woman as such.
So with this, of course, it gives you that security, all right, I'm taken care of. But I think subsequently, or rather, they have to take care of themselves.
Absolutely, because the committee, what we are talking about, is not more than a departmental inquiry in a company which happens. It's only a committee which conducts an inquiry and puts up a recommendation to the police officer or any enforcement agency for that matter.
But it's not itself an enforcement agency.
Yes, it's actually, it's going to act as an inquiring committee as such. The name itself denotes. So it's not an enforcement agency.
All right. So that much strength is not given to it. It's good in a way, it's bad in a way.
It's good in a way, it's bad in a way, but the problem is you really can't dig into an evidence when this really happens in a room where there is absolutely no other
Nobody
person
else. Yes.
And it's really hard to come out with evidence, because even the committee making a recommendation, the evidence has to be relied, and the law of evidence, whatever is applicable in the court of law, will have to be followed by the committee as such.
Okay.
So if in a situation where there is absolutely no evidence, it's really difficult for the committee also to make any recommendation as such.
So ultimately, we come back to the square one, which is take care of yourselves.
Absolutely, I agree with you on that.
Look out for danger.
Yep.
Avoid people who are doing this. And I think more than anything, at the very first instance when you see such a thing happening to you and the person doing it to you, at that very first instance, I think you should either put that person in place and say, don't mess with me.
Absolutely. And no toleration for such things.
Exactly. And not what will he think. Or, most women keep quiet.
Yeah.
They just go, suffer in silence, or they quit and go. And when they quit, they don't even tell you why they quit.
The reason, I agree with you.
If they do an exit interview and tell them, I'm quitting because of this. I remember in a jewelry shop, a well-known jewelry shop, I was doing a training program for all their salespeople.
Yeah.
And there was this girl who was crying at the end of it. I said, what happened? She said, I quit my previous job where I was doing really well in the jewelry shop because that guy, the salesman next to me, he would, touch my hand under the counter table and things. I said, why didn't you tell anybody? How can I say this? So I quit the company. I said, did you tell your boss before you quit? No, anyway, I'm quitting. I said, you know what? He's doing it to somebody else. So we need to tell. When something like this happens, tell the right people, okay, this is happening, can you do something about it? Rather than suffer silently.
True.
I hope this conversation we've had, Rakesh, will be of help to both management
sure.
and the working level to say that you have every right to be safe and strong and free, and if anybody infringes that right, you have every right to complain. And the legislation has given you that right.
Absolutely. And also to give a comfort, the presiding officer in these committees are headed basically by women.
Yes.
That's the comfort what you have.
I don't know comfort for whom, because sometimes women can be more ruthless.
True.
So I think it should be given to somebody who is fair, who look at all aspects of it, because they say there are two sides to a coin, yes, but there is a third side called truth. So the whole thing should be loaded in favor of truth, what is happening.